All right, early morning YouTube. Let's do this. Talk about these scales today, and I'll have a C harmonica in my hand today as I go through these. I think this is an important topic to talk about. I think we've got some things that we can examine. Lines up with my class today. I'm teaching a class called Jammin scale practice and exercises. It's going to be quite thorough, and we're going to focus in on the four scales that I think are important. So I'm going to get right to it and give you some information if you're not attending this class. If you want to check it out, I'll put a link to the class in the video description after this ends, or you can go to harmonica123.com. I believe it's on the homepage to find access to this class to sign up. So scales. I was never a big scale guy when I first started learning harmonica. But I did learn a few scales that helped me very much. They're kind of like just a pathway to follow as you're improvising. These are just smart note choices to use when you're moving around. And there's four scales that I want to mention, the same scales that I'll be working with in this class, essentially. And the scales are the following. So I'll just jump in and just give you some of this. The most important scales in the world of improvisation and melody playing, quite frankly, on a diatonic harmonica, you want to start by thinking of the major scale. I think that the major scale is something that's just a good sort of beginner approach to getting used to blow, draw, no bending in the middle of the harmonica. There's a lot of simple songs that feed right off the major scale. And while you're at it, when you start to bend, you'll learn that on the bottom. Sounds like this. On the bottom. We can even get it on the top. It would require a little bend on up at the very top of the harmonica. I won't do that on this C harp. I'll spare you that. But when you move and progress beyond the major scale, and that's something I certainly learned for sure. Let me back up. In this class today, I'm not just covering the scales. The intention of this class is to give you exercises so that the scale work becomes much more musical, so that as you're working them, it feels like you're actually grooving and jamming and making music with it right away. That's what makes scales fun, exciting, and encourages you to practice them so that you don't get caught saying, oh, this is really boring. So I've got about 7 to 8 exercises outlined that are kind of cool ways to move around and practice your scales. The second scale I would work on is the blues scale, because that was a scale for me that was extremely important. I wanted to play blues, and a lot of people tuning into this channel probably want to play blues. And the scale sounds like this. When we move beyond hole 6, you've got an overblow and an overdraw to manage. I'm not an overblow and overdraw player, but you can modify. You can modify and kind of create ways to move around the top, or use a different scale, which I'm going to talk about in class, the major pentatonic scale, which doesn't require any overblowing or overdrawing through the whole register bottom to top on the harmonica. Okay, so there's that. So let me back it up. You got the major scale, you got your blues scale, and now I'm just mentioning the pentatonic scale. These are the scales that I focused on and still focus on: major pentatonic and minor pentatonic, and the additional one would be the minor blues scale. So think of them by position. If you're wondering what position is, you're new to harmonica, when somebody says we're playing in a position, we're playing in a position, it means you're figuring out what key you want to play your harmonica in. And that'll help you determine which scales to bring in. Each position can have multiple scales. So first position, major scale. Second position, blues scale we can find, and the major pentatonic. And then in third position, we can find also a blues scale and a pentatonic. And those are really important. So if you're like, well, this is great information, Ronnie, but where are the scales? The scales are readily available on the internet. Of course, a word of caution, be careful where you look. I'm actually fine with copying and pasting some scales into the video description and just giving them to you. I'll update the video. Then it's all about what you do with these scales and how you interact with them so that they're not stale and so that they become enjoyable and you want to go back to them and practice them. I'm really looking forward to doing this class because it came around in such a way that it occurred to me when I'm practicing scales and when I'm thinking about scales, it's very loose and it's fun. Like I'll just show you a quick demo. After you've worked scales in a variety of ways, you can kind of work on improvising where you just stick to scale notes. So you might have a little track like a track in G and you're in second position. Let's say it's the blues scale. The only rule is you've got to stick to the scale notes and don't bring in any outside notes at this point. And find creative ways to really interact. So I'm not playing any, and I think the biggest thing is that people don't realize that 90% of what you're doing when you're improvising or playing melodies in a particular scale is you're sticking to primarily those notes. If you listen to all the great classic blues harmonica, 90% or more of the notes are all just scale notes. So wouldn't you want to become really familiar with the scale notes? Yes. Some people don't learn like that and they didn't learn scales at all. But they did. They just didn't realize they did. When they were copying examples of their favorite players, they were working on scales, essentially. These riffs are comprised of primarily scale notes. Good morning, everybody. Hey, good morning, good morning. So one way is to stick in the order. So I'll just give you a quick tip is you could just play improvising with backing tracks, but in the class I want to get more structured with exercises and then demonstrate a few of them to backing tracks. But don't just go in order. A tip would be just experiment rearranging those scale notes once you're familiar with the order up and down and really have some fun with it. So I do think, so to kind of summarize, I think scales are for me, were actually fairly vital. Once I learned the scales, I just had a path to follow. When somebody first showed me third position, they didn't show me the bottom notes, the scale on the bottom. They only showed me this. And I was on my way to improvising third position and learning a few melodies. It wasn't until much later that I realized you could play that on the bottom if you worked on your bending. So was not easy to control those three bends that you need on the bottom. But boy, did it open up my playing to be able to find the same ideas I had already learned in the middle on the bottom. So take a few scales. If you're overloaded and say, well, you said you didn't learn many, but you just talked about 5 scales, essentially. The blues and pentatonic scale in second and third, that's 4 in each position. And then the major scale. But you could take one at a time and work it from these perspectives. So just a quick reminder. Learn a melody, work on those scale exercises in a fun, creative manner, and take a minute to make sure that you're practicing them in a variety of ways so that you just don't get burnt out playing scales in a very dry fashion up and down. After 30 seconds, you're done. You're building muscle memory. There's so many things that you gain from working these scales. So that's my tip to you today. I realize it's early in the morning. It's like 7:40 in the morning here, Central Time. The class today starts at 11 a.m. if you want to get in on it. There's 4 pages of notes that you'll take home with you, and we'll use these notes to guide us during the class today and work through these scale exercises. It'll be fun. It will not be boring, because if it's boring, I don't want to do it either. So I've designed these exercises to be pretty fun, and I'll show you how I practice scales. Class will probably run an hour and a half today. It's all recorded. If you can't make it, you could still sign up and you'll get the notes in the recording, and that's what I got. Scales, scales, scales. I'll leave you with something different. Let's see. What is this? This one's in D. Slow. It's It's D minor, so you're on a C harp in third position. So the blues scale. Oh, the other one I left out. No, I talked about the minor pentatonic. Okay. Whoops, there we go. And a final note that I'll be doing in class is demonstrating how you can take technique, higher level technique, and blend this into scale practice. We'll be doing some of that. That gets really interesting because as you switch up your technique, you've really got to think about the replacements or substitutes for these single note choices that you're playing. So you have to have a minute and consider that sometimes those single notes get translated to two notes that to interact with the technique. So you have to slow down and maybe write it out. And for me, I'm very visual. I want to see that written out. And these are some of the things that run through my head. If the topic is of interest, join me later on or check out the class after it ends. The link will still work as a product link. Even if you're watching this days, weeks, years later, this video, you can click that link and get to the product. That's what I got today. Practice some scales. If you're not into scale work, find some creative ways to engage those notes that you'll be using, which essentially is scale practice. But when you learn riffs and you learn songs, you're really working on those scale notes regardless. It's just a more direct way to make a connection emotionally and build stronger muscle memory quicker when we target only those scale notes. And that's what I wanted to leave you with today. I hope you guys have a great day. It is possible that I might not be popping on YouTube for a minute. So I'll be traveling a bit and moving around, and I just don't know what kind of access I'll have to or time to post. So if you don't see me for a little bit, know that I will be back, and I'll be back stronger than ever when I come back. So y'all make it a great day. Let's leave with a little bit of this thing in G. Kind of minor. It's a minorish thing, but you can still use second position on the minor carefully. Little Sonny Boy scale note practice. Just scale notes. So I'm riffing, I'm just playing, but I'm not gonna bring in any other notes. All right, y'all. Peace. Make it a great day. I hope to see some of you at 11 a.m. Central today. If not, I'll catch you in another video.